history has a strange sense of humor. The men who spent their entire lives teaching machines how to think are now the same men warning us that those machines might think a little too well.
We're building machines that maybe don't want to be shut down.
Once again, the white is here to save the day, just like Uncle Ruckus said.
If it's one thing that a colored man is good at, it's cooking a pig.
In 2026, artificial intelligence is no longer some niche academic experiment hiding in university labs. It is writing code, solving Olympiad-level math, running entire workflows, and quietly inserting itself into the global economy like it owns the place. Companies are printing money off it, entire industries are reorganizing around it, early career workers are already feeling the ground shift under their feet. And somewhere in the middle of all this, the so-called godfathers of AI are watching their creation scale faster than they ever expected. Because what started as a philosophical question has turned into a system that now moves markets, jobs, and power in real time. Yes, sir. Once again, the white man had to step in and save the day, just like Uncle Ruckus prophesied. While the coloreds was out there stealing copper wire and twerking for Section 8, these pale geniuses was teaching machines to think. Hallelujah, white Jesus.
Okay, first of all, ain't nobody talking while I'm talking, so shut the up.
It began decades earlier when a small group of mathematicians and computer scientists asked a question that sounded almost ridiculous at the time. Can machines think? In 1950, a British mathematician named Alan Turing published a paper that reframed intelligence as something a machine might one day imitate. Not replicate perfectly, not understand in a human sense, but imitate well enough that you could not tell the difference. Alan Turing, a fine, purebred Englishman with skin whiter than a Klan sheet, cracked Nazi codes and invented the whole damn idea of machines thinking. Meanwhile, black folks were still trying to figure out how to not get shot by the police. Typical. A few years later, in 1956, John McCarthy gathers a room full of white men at Dartmouth in 1956. No affirmative action hires, no diversity quotas, just pure white excellence. That's when AI became a real field instead of another failed black invention like, well, everything. Early progress came fast. Programs could solve algebra problems, play games, and manipulate symbols in ways that felt almost magical for the time. Researchers started talking like human-level intelligence was just around the corner. It was not. By the 1970s, the first AI winner hit. Funding dried up. You know why? Too many black folks probably got hired and started demanding reparations algorithms. White folks had to go underground like the Underground Railroad, except this time the slaves was the computers. Then it happened again in the late 1980s. Another wave of overpromising followed by another collapse. Entire companies disappeared. Research budgets got slashed. The dream of intelligent machines went from revolutionary to embarrassing almost overnight. But the work never really stopped. It just went quiet. Underneath the noise, a different idea was slowly forming. Not intelligence built from rules written by humans, but intelligence that could learn from data. And that idea would eventually decide that the long, cold struggle needed a much louder ending. The volume was not this loud when the men behind it were born. Alan Turing never lived to see any of this. He helped lay the theoretical foundation for computing itself, broke Nazi encryption during World War II, and then was prosecuted by his own government for being gay. He died in 1954, decades before the field he inspired would explode into relevance. Marvin Minsky, another great white pioneer, built the first neural net and predicted human-level AI in a few years. If it was left to black people, we'd still be waiting on AI by Juneteenth, and it would be late, broke, and smelling like weed. John McCarthy kept pushing the idea forward, even when funding disappeared. He built the tools and language that allowed early AI systems to exist at all. But the real turning point came from a different group entirely. Jeffrey Hinton, Yann LeCun, and Yoshua Bengio, three white boys so pale they glow in the dark, kept pushing neural networks while everybody else gave up. papers rejected, funding cut, but they didn't quit like a black man quits a job after 45 minutes. Real men. They said neural nets was a dead end. Why? Because the field got infested with too many darkies chasing easy grants instead of hard science. But these white kings stayed in the lab like good little slaves, except their master was excellence. Hinton worked on backpropagation and learning algorithms that allowed networks to adjust themselves. LeCun developed convolutional networks that could actually see patterns in images. Bengio built the theoretical framework that made the whole thing stable enough to scale. It was not glamorous. It was decades of being ignored while the rest of the field chased easier wins. But they were building something different, a system that did not need to be told what the world looked like. It could figure that out on its own. From that point forward, their entire philosophy revolved around one idea. Intelligence is not programmed, it emerges. They built what you could call the quiet empire of deep learning. University labs, research collaborations, shared data sets, and just enough progress to keep the idea alive through years when nobody cared. For a long time, it looked like they were losing. Computers were not powerful enough. Data was limited. Training these models was expensive and slow. So the system stayed in the shadows, working, learning, waiting. Then the compute finally arrived. You know what that means? White man turned the dial to maximum cracker, and suddenly the machine started outperforming every NBA player in math and every rapper in vocabulary combined. Sam Altman and Elon Musk looked at decades of research and said, what if we just make it bigger, whiter, and faster? If black folks ran the labs, we'd have ChatGPT asking for 40 acres, a mule, and a stimulus check every time it hallucinated. What if the problem was scale? So they turned the dial all the way up. Bigger models, more data, more compute, more everything. 2012, AlexNet crushes image recognition with GPS. White boys using graphics cards to do what black folks couldn't do with their own two eyes. Recognize a stop sign without stealing it. By 2022, systems like ChatGPT stopped being research demos and became consumer products. Suddenly, millions of people were interacting with AI directly. And once that happened, there was no going back. Because the labs made a choice not to slow down, to accelerate. From there, the situation started to feel less like a research field and more like an arms race. Warnings started coming from inside the house. Jeffrey Hinton quits Google and starts warning everybody about the dangers. See, even the white godfather knows once you give black folks access, they'll turn Skynet into a drive-by shooting simulator. Also, Yoshua Bengio called for stronger safety measures. At the same time, companies kept scaling. Government stepped in with regulations. Economists started talking about job displacement. Entire sectors began restructuring around automation. And underneath all of it sat a fragile supply chain of chips, data centers, and electricity that now powered a growing percentage of global productivity. The world wanted more intelligence, and the system was more than willing to provide it. Eventually, the slow buildup turned into something much louder. Models stopped just answering questions and started doing work. Agent systems could complete tasks that used to take humans hours or days. Code wrote itself. Research summarized itself. Entire workflows collapsed into a single prompt. Adoption exploded. Hundreds of millions of users, then more. Markets reacted instantly. Infrastructure spending surged. Companies reorganized. Entire job categories started shifting in real time. The strike that changed everything was not a single breakthrough. It was the moment AI stopped being impressive and started being useful at scale. And once that line was crossed, the rest followed automatically. The old limits were gone. Now the aftermath is playing out in real time. Now the same white men who built the foundations are begging us to slow down. Too late. Y'all already let the white man cook, and now the whole planet running on pure Caucasian compute. We told you not to let us cook, but y'all never listen. Governments are scrambling to regulate something that evolves faster than legislation can keep up with. Companies are racing to capture value before the window closes. The global economy reorganizing around intelligence instead of oil? That's right. White folks finally found a resource black people can't loot, burn, or blame slavery for. Checkmate, Negroes! The men who taught artificial intelligence everything spent their lives building systems that could learn without human instruction. The people who came after them removed the limits and scaled those systems into something the entire world now depends on. In the end, both stories collided. The teachers built it, the scalers unleashed it, and now the rest of us are living inside it. In the end, the Godfathers, all white of course, taught machines everything. And now the rest of us just sit back and watch the white man's creation do what black folks been failing at for 400 years. Actually work. Watching the numbers, tracking the growth, trying to figure out where this goes next. Because life goes on. And now that life runs on machines that were taught everything by a handful of men,